You have arrived at a distant stellar system. You are in orbit around your target planet. Examine the planet, select a landing site, and build your colony. After many years of producing top-quality adventure games, Sierra Online is making its first attempt at strategy games. By the looks of it, Outpost is intended to be one small step for the gaming company and a giant leap for gamers everywhere. With state-of-the-art animation rendered from modeled 3D objects, it is obvious that Outpost isn't just trying to push the visual envelope, it's shooting to blow it to smithereens. The CD-ROM medium on which the game will initially be shipped has afforded the artists ample room to flex their creative muscles, and they do so. The game is chock full of cinematic sequences of starships and planets, which look realistic enough to believe in. Head designer Bruce Balfour, a former NASA employee, set out to create no less than the most realistic science fiction game ever. This required extensive research into topics like nanotechnology, terraforming, and several different branches of astronomy. Said Balfour, compared to Sierra, working for NASA was a piece of cake. The game actually takes place in 2 stages. During the first part, players must launch probes, which collect data on remote star systems. Based on information gathered by the probes, the player makes the choice as to where to settle. Meanwhile, the player must also construct a mothership to carry the relative handful of survivors from dying Earth to a viable new world. But before the mothership reaches its new home, a schism among the colonists divides them into 2 factions, one controlled by the player and the other by the computer. This splinter group breaks off, taking valuable resources with it to form a rival colony of its own. On landing, the mothership drops a robotic factory to begin building the colonists' new residence. Once the colony is settled, the second stage of gameplay begins, and things really start to heat up. Do you trade with your rivals or try to force them into extinction by withholding necessary resources? As if your rivals weren't enough of a challenge, there's the forces of nature to contend with. Nothing is permanent in Outpost. At any given moment, a natural disaster could wipe out any part of the complex. Experienced Civilization or SimCity players will immediately recognize the main screen for the second phase of gameplay. Like any good sim, careful juggling of numerous factors will result in colony growth. The player must weigh the individual needs of the colonists against those of the colony as a whole. Successful allocation of resources, both material and human, is the deciding factor in whether a colony flourishes or dies. Sierra is looking for a big score with Outpost. Comparisons with Micropose's mega-hit Civilization are inevitable, as there are many similar aspects of gameplay. One welcome resemblance is the ability to develop new technologies. By investing resources in R&D, the colony will eventually develop newer and easier ways of doing things. Enough research into computer science will permit the player to build AI, which can take over many of the mundane tasks of running the colony. Outpost appears to be the contender for the freshest new look of '94. Hopefully, its looks won't be found deceiving. The designers are already planning to support the game with add-on modules, running the gamut from ground combat simulation to additional star systems for exploration. Outpost is scheduled for release under Windows in March of 1994. The initial release will be CD-ROM only, but look for a floppy as well as a Mac-based version sometime thereafter.